Hi, welcome back to Panda Reacts. I'm Sandra and this is Ken.
Hi.
And Ham is here with us for Outlander, episode 3 of season 7. I know, you haven't even seen episode 1 and 2, so you don't know what happened. But the whole house blew up last time. I know, right? It's gonna be one of those days. Let's find out what people said, because I know they did. Okay, Gopherlin. In book 6, I remember there was a little argument on here between two viewers because someone felt that they were doing spoilers. I didn't think that they were spoilers, mostly because I didn't think anything was new on here. So, in book 6, before Bree and Roger go through the stone, she actually does meet William. Yes, that's right. Because I'm on book 6 right now, the green one. Echo in the Bone,
yeah.
And or if you're talking about Breath of Snow and Ashes, I can't quite figure that out. But she meets him in both books. There's like some weird flashback in the second book, so that I have. So it's kind of on both. Yeah, and it's on the docks. It's after Stephen Bonnet is tied to that stake. Like that storyline, it was ending in that section.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, that storyline was done prior to that. Oh, so so Gopherlin says that the gold wasn't going to France. The gold came from France. But that's not what yeah, it is French gold, but wasn't that where the Stuarts were hiding? Weren't they in Italy or France? They definitely weren't in Scotland.
No, they were in France.
So if it is in France, yeah, because we meet Bonnie Prince Charlie, or right. Which one do we meet? Charles, Mark me in the front, and when they're in Paris, because she meets all those friends. Remember, and he's climbing through that friend's window. That's in France. So
yeah.
So yeah, and Hector did take the cask. He fled to America and used part of it to start a river run. Yeah, that's all in the books. That's very true. So it's weird because the gold is stamped with the fleur-de-lis because it's coming from the French king.
French treasury, yeah.
Yeah, but Charles and James were both in France.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where the gold was supposed to go. Maybe it was supposed to go to Scotland to fund.
That makes the most sense.
To help.
After all,
because it couldn't go to those two because they were already in France.
Well, France would have a vested interest in wanting to see the English crown.
Yes, they would.
Destabilized.
Yes. So. See all the history of France and England.
Yeah, about up to World War I, or the Napoleonic era. After the Napoleonic era.
Yes, and once again, What a Doll's Life says thank you. Well, you're welcome. Yeah. So last time we watched the show, they packed a lot in again. Bree and Roger found out the baby was diagnosed. The family had to go back to the future, which, by the way, isn't the 60s now, it's the 80s.
Oh.
Because it's the late 70s in 1700s, and you have to add a few years. It's 104 years, I think they go into the future when they're doing it.
So we're going to go meet Marty
204, sorry. Yeah, it's basically going to be, the 80s. That's where they're going. So, more it's like 1980. It's not like full into the 80s. Okay. It's just the beginning of the 80s.
So it's just right at the beginning of the punk era.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the issue.
It's not an issue.
No, I don't think we really need to know exactly what's going on, but I think it will be a bit of a culture shock for Bree and Roger because they last left in the 60s.
Yeah.
They missed an entire decade. As far as I know.
They missed disco. That was good.
Well, did they miss the entire decade? Yeah, because Claire left in the 40s the first time.
Yeah, right after the war.
And then she came back to have Bree. Bree must have been born in somewhere in the 50s. She left at the end of the 60s, I think, again. Yeah. And then Bree was there for a year or two. So Bree was there for the beginning of the 70s, and then she took off as well. Yeah. So all of them have traveled back using the gems that they could find back to the future.
Mm-hmm.
However, then we met up with Wendigo, who decided to show up and threaten Claire, give me the gems, because they'd gone to Wilmington to get the gems, to trade things for gems. That's basically what it was all about. They were trading things for gems.
Yes.
Wendigo heard about it and decided that he was going to go
must be more back
get
at
some
the house,
gems, because he wants to go to the future, because he couldn't figure out how to do it. And, well, that's because you weren't meant to go back to the future, and you never will.
It's because
now you dead.
Yeah, he drank a half-gallon of whiskey and tried to go through the stones. And
Moron.
and then he blew himself up.
Well,
with
yeah.
all the ether fumes.
He blew himself up with the ether matches and everything. But where's Ian? Because Ian was supposed to be the one who lit the match. Where's Ian? He helped bury Outlander, and then we never saw him again. Where did Ian go? He didn't get to say goodbye to Bree and Roger.
Mm-hmm.
Where the heck is Ian? I don't know. Maybe he's out. I have no idea.
Maybe
he was left out of that entire thing.
He'll show up conveniently now to pull them out of the fire, which would
started.
Because the plot needs that.
They started running the minute, because that ether would have knocked you out. Yeah. So in the book, I know they got down because the ether took a while. Like they were smelling it, and people were starting to pass out. But the minute Donner picks up one of those dang matches, and you know your house is full of ether, booking it out the door. So that's what we're gonna see them running for their lives. That's what I'm gonna. That's for, because there's no way. Well, one, they didn't die in there. Duh. There's like 5 more books. So they're not dead. But then my concern is always for Adso. Adso the cat. Hopefully he's okay. He is in the book, but I don't know what are they gonna do. Anyway, that's what happened. Kablam! That's all we saw.
Kaboom.
So, let's get to this episode.
Don't talk! No, don't do
Run! Gots to haul it. Oh yes, I know what this is. It says Jeremiah Alexander Ian, Fraser Mackenzie. It's Jemmy's. Oh yeah, do you remember Fiona?
We've been keeping it safe, but we've been dying to know what's inside. Bank said it's been in the vault
They're helping them.
200 years.
Yeah. So that got delivered to them.
Maybe I should check on the kids. They're outside in the garden, Ernie and the girls. I'll check on them for you. Thank you. I'm glad Mandy's doing so well, and I'm so glad you've come back.
It's letters.
My dear daughter, as you will see if you ever receive this, we are alive.
Lisa! Where'd you go? Throw that out!
Arch, Medina, get out! Here!
Yeah. Book it!
Action 80s action movie.
Both your mother and I are safe
there.
and well, and we will always have a home, as long as we have each other.
Thanks a lot, Wendigo. You just wrecked our whole house, you jerk.
You burned the house down.
You burned the house down.
What? No, it was Mama's ether. Come on, any kind of spark could have caused that explosion.
But it wasn't any kind of spark.
Yours.
Wendigo lit one of your matches. You and your mother. The 18th century's lucky to have survived you.
Hey? Why are you saying that?
Because, Brianna, it was you. You caused a fire that they survived. A different fire. Look at the date. The fire from the obituary didn't happen. It couldn't happen. There was nothing left to burn.
So we actually did it. We saved them. We changed history.
Or you just burn them down. Well, your magic did destroy the house, so, thanks for that.
I found this.
What? Please don't
Thought
say
you might like it back.
cat, because I'll lose my mind.
Adds up.
No.
She's Willie.
Oh.
Or John's lad. No?
Right. John's kid.
You must be proud.
He knows.
Where did you get?
He was here. I saw you looking at him the same way you were looking at that portrait.
Mm-hmm.
That, and from what I remember, he was a stubborn lad. Wasn't afraid to speak his mind either.
We could never know he's my son.
Dinna fash, Uncle. You need Fraser blood to see it in him. I will never speak of it to a soul.
Sure, he'll turn up somewhere. Of course he will.
He better. Not okay with Adso being killed.
He's a cute kid.
Yeah, I don't recall him being killed.
I guess you'll be wanting to explain this, Mr. Bug.
Yeah.
I didn't owe ye an explanation about anything. There were three of us when the gold came ashore from France. Dougal Mackenzie took 1/3 and Hector Cameron another. I was the third man, tacksman to Malcolm Grant, who sent him. But it came too late to make a difference to the cause. So Grant used it for the good of the clan. I didn't know what Dougal did with his, but Hector Cameron, he fled. He was a traitor, and his wife with him. I only had to set eyes on River Run to see where the gold had been spent, but not all of it.
Where's the rest of it?
Somewhere you'll never find it.
Okay.
You are free of your oath to me. Take your life from my hand. Take this. Take your wife and go. Do not return. Let him find what he's looking for first. You go behind him. If he runs, stop him.
Mr. Bug! March Bug! Come out of there. I'll speak with you.
It's not Archie.
Mrs. Bug?
I need heart. Archie.
No. I thought she was... The coat. The hat. I didn't ken it was you.
I trust you wouldn't turn an old man away from his wife's funeral.
Of course not.
And have her taken to her rest with the proper observances. Will you sing, Mistress Fraser?
Mr. Bug?
Yeah. True. There's Willow.
It was by my hand that this woman of great worth has died.
Yeah.
I didn't take her life by malice or of a purpose. And it is a sorrow to me. I swear by my iron, a life for a life.
Ian, stop it.
Too easy, lad. Can you give me your hound to kill?
No.
No. It was my crime, not his.
Aye? You see then? He's not but a flea-ridden beast. Not a wife. When you've something worth taking, you'll see me again. That I promise ye.
Oh, you're being really creepy. What do you want to take from him? That was pretty much a threat.
Mhm.
He
In
said
the
come
days
back
that
and kill your
followed,
wife.
we tried to lay our sorrows to rest.
I saw them walk up to the front door of our house. Roger Mac was with him. They knocked and a wee brown-haired woman opened it. She laughed with joy to see him and brought them in. And they went down the hallway. Mandy was a wee bit older. She was well.
Did any of them call this woman by name?
Aye. They did. Roger Mac called her Fiona. Just at the last, just before I woke, wee Jem was messing about, picking things up and putting them down as he does. Was that the thing on the table? Didn't I ken what it was? Never seen the like. It was about this wide and just a bit longer. Something like a box, maybe only humped.
Humped.
It had a thing on top, like a wee club, only with a knob on each end, and it was tied to the box with a cord curled up on itself like a pickle's tail. Jim reached out to pick it up and said, I want to speak to Granda.
It's a telephone.
Telephone.
How did you find this place?
Jim and I came upon it when we were hunting one day. It was a secret between us. Agreed to tell no one, not even his parents.
Nor me.
Wee lad and his granda need at least one secret.
So why do you call it the Spaniard's Cave?
On account of the current occupants. We found nothing with him. See his armor. And this. I wish to tell you of the disposition of some property that was once held in trust by the Camerons for an Italian gentleman. It is unwise to carry all of it with us, and therefore I have left it in a
Charles.
Place of safety.
They went to Italy too.
Jem knows the place.
One of them hid in Rome.
If you should at some time have need of this property, tell him the Spaniard guards it. He will know what it means. If you retrieve it, be sure to have it blessed by a priest. There is blood upon it.
Roger, what are you doing?
just have a wee look.
Hurry up.
Definitely time to go.
Afternoon. We will just, apologies, we'll be on our way.
Are you interested?
Excuse me?
Bloody wind. Must have knocked it
sale.
down.
Yes.
If you have need.
Stop! Wait!
What is it, Sasnak?
It's Adzo. I can hear the kitty.
There you are. Shh, 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 shh. Handsome.
He's okay.
There's lots of birds and squirrels sing for you in the woods. And as you'll see by his milk, the warm spot by the fire.
Oh, look, that kitty in the woods. What are you doing? I guess he's being kind of Lily
Go
with
home.
it. Where's Rolo? You didn't leave Rolo behind, did you? Where's Rolo? I'm sorry, what the heck? Don't leave the dog behind, I don't know what you're doing. Alright, that was episode 3.
That was a bit slow and sad.
I'm a little sad though. One, like, Adso's supposed to just live in the woods. I couldn't do that. I would have taken him with me. And then, why is Ian leaving him without, like, I'm sorry, but Ian doesn't go anywhere without Rolo. Where's Rolo? Like, I haven't gotten far enough in the book where they actually are leaving. they're just planning on leaving at this point, so they haven't actually left. So I guess I'll find out what happened to Rollo in the book. So yeah, this episode was very true to the book. It did skip a bit of things, but that's okay. I can talk about those in a minute. So we started off with them slow-mo running out of the house because you're supposed to book it out of the house.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
They tried to save it, but there was no use.
There was a very lethal weapon explosion there, and it went fine.
A lot of stuff survived in the book. Nothing really survives at all, except for the big white pig, which isn't even seen in the TV series. They have this pig that lives on the farm that's just like so vicious that nobody ever goes near it, and it survived the fire and was like living underneath the house. So there's a whole section on the pig, having to distract the pig in order to get back to the house because all her babies are there, and I don't know. Anyway, it's the Great White Sow. She's pretty brutal. Anyway, she's not in this series, but they really condensed it quite fast, where they were waiting to see if Archbug would go back for the gold. They thought it was him.
It wasn't.
It wasn't. The person did a shot at Jamie, and Ian automatically shot them with a bow. It was Mrs. Bug. I knew that because I'd read the book, so I knew it was going to be her. And there's a whole part in the book that's also missing where, well, first of all, they're supposed to be living with, do you remember the lady that was like all up in Roger? Like he was helping her and stuff?
Yep.
So she had a son, and then later, and a little baby girl. I think it was a girl anyway. She remarries in the book, and not to Roger, obviously, and they live with her for a while in her cabin. We weren't privy to whose cabin that was that they were living in. Possibly it was Lizzie's and her two dudes. Lizzie's pregnant again. That
Sounds
also
like
happens in the
a little
book.
crowded up there.
Yeah. Well, I'm at a part in the book where Lizzie's giving birth to the baby, and they haven't gone to Scotland yet. And the baby's like turned the wrong way, so there's this big like issue going on like with the baby. Although I haven't finished it, so I don't know what happened. But yeah. So basically, they kill Mrs. Bug, which definitely happens in the book. But there's another lady that dies at the same time. Some old lady kicks it. Because everybody's living in this small cabin, including this lady that's close to death. She dies, so there's two dead bodies, and then they argue over who would be the guardian. Who is the guardian of the cemetery, is that did come up, that there's a belief that whoever has died last is the guardian. So Melva's the current guardian, and then Mrs. Bug is now the new guardian. But in the book, there's another dead lady, so they're not too sure who the guardian would be, because they're buried at the same time. Bug shows up. There's singing that happens, but it's Gaelic, and it's not Ave Maria. I can tell you that. But Arch shows up, and he does indeed threaten Rollo. Says, I'll kill. You love your dog. I'll kill that. And Ian's like, no, Rollo didn't do anything. I was the one that killed her. You can take me out, because he's beyond guilty. Like, he feels so guilty over what happened to Miss Bug since he shot her. But the thing is, Archbug's not going to make it that easy. He says, one day I'll come back for the thing that you love the most. It's like, yeah, but you're old. You won't be alive then, so good luck with that. So they took the gold and they buried it in the Spaniard's cave, which is also in the book. And then that comes up in 1980. So basically,
they need the gold now.
They're off to Scotland. I don't know. It's a totally different storyline. It's just to deliver Ian. That's in the book, but why would Ian leave without Rollo? This I don't understand. Rollo is Ian's dog. Rollo wouldn't go anywhere without Ian. So if you're going to take Ian back to Scotland and leave him there, then he needs his dog. did go back for the dog. On their way out, they find the cat,
Mhm.
who I know survived, but I was just like, why is the cat living in the forest now? You poor kitty. So no one could find Adso for a while. Claire found him, and then remembered him when he was a baby kitty, because that was her seeing him go off as a little kitten. She told him to go home, so hopefully he'll make it back to Lizzie, and they'll take care of Adso, and everything will be fine. But that upset Claire quite a lot, as it did me, because I was like, what? Don't leave that kitty behind. The doggy's behind, the kitty's behind. Come on, people, take your pets with you. And they found the marker that Jamie put up when they first got to Fraser's Ridge.
Yep.
So that was cool. So they're on their way to Scotland. In the book, it's to get a printing press so that Jamie can work on making pamphlets to help instead of having to fight in the war. But they're not going to be gone long enough to avoid the war. I'm pretty sure about that. They'll have to be back. But he doesn't want to fight against William.
The war takes several years. So.
Oh yeah, they'll be back, I'm sure. There's a whole rapping stuff got to happen with William. But Ian found William's picture in the rubble.
Yep.
And confessed that he knew that William is Jamie's son.
Yeah.
Jamie was like, you can't say anything, blah, blah. Yeah, that's true. We all know that. But Ian picks up on a lot of stuff. The Dr. Rawlings journal survived. It does not survive in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting, because she's all upset that none of that stuff survived. All her stuff is gone. But a few things seem to have survived. In those sweet chests. Those chests were made of steel or something, because they didn't get burned.
Asbestos.
Yeah, maybe. So then back in 1980, we find Bree and Roger living in Fiona's house, or staying with her and her thousands of children that she seems to have. And they drop off, the post people had dropped off before something that Fiona had saved. And that was a box that said Jeremiah, Alexander, Brian, I think it was, Ian Mackenzie, Roger, no, it was Alexander Ian Fraser Mackenzie, that's right. So that obviously was Jemmy's box. So Fiona gave it to them, knowing that she kept it. She knew they were in the past. They opened it, and yes, there's letters in there that, of course, will take us through the journey of what happens back in the 1700s through the letters that Claire and Jamie have left for Brianna. But the first one's we're alive, because the fire it occurred in April in the series, and it was supposed to be in January. And there's like I said I think I said this last time, the journalist, there's a whole thing with the journalists, and they're like, oh, it's when did this happen? Doesn't matter, because the house burned down. They just it's like Telephone, a bad game of telephone back then.
Make up stuff.
Yeah, they just wrote it burned down, so people must have died. Yeah, that's what happened. So there was an obituary that Roger teased Brianna because it was her matches that burnt the place down.
Yeah.
It was the ether, too, so the fact that those two went back in time was the whole reason that house burnt down.
Mm-hmm.
It couldn't have burnt down without Claire and Brianna, because they both made the ether and the matches be at that house at the same time.
And only Wendigo would know what to do with a strike it match.
That's
of
right.
All the people that were there, he's the only one who know what to do with it.
Well, that's not true, because she had shown Ian and the family how to use them.
But they're not there.
But Ian in the book was the one who lit the match. It wasn't Wendigo. So, because it was too dark and they needed to see. But, anyway, so Bree decides she wants to show Roger Lollybrock. So they go to Lollybrock, and it's all boarded up, and turns out it's for sale.
Yeah, so I think they might have need of that.
Right, so the gold, there's this whole thing with the gold. Mr. Bug was the third member. I was telling you this last week, but I think I cut it out of the final draft of the video. That's that there were 3 original people who had the gold. Hector, and then I told you I couldn't remember the other 2. Well, It was Dougal, which I should have remembered. and Mr. Bug. And then Jocasta didn't know the gold was under the wagon at the time, and her daughter was killed, and all this horrible stuff happened while they were on the road with this stupid gold. So Mr. Bug was like, this gold belongs to Scotland. I'm taking it back because Jocasta she's not supposed to have it. Hector's a selfish dude. He shouldn't have it either, even when he's dead. So they had stolen it over time and put it in a box, in a steel box, it looked like, under the house.
Mm-hmm.
Then, in the future, they'd written a letter to them that said, if you ever have need, they didn't quite say it was the gold.
Yeah.
They said it was something for an Italian gentleman,
right.
which is clearly the Stuarts, because they were in Italy.
One Prince Charlie.
Yeah. And so they reasoned that out, and that he said, Jemmy knows where it is.
Yep.
It's in the Spaniard cave. Yeah. It's where the Spaniard is. And they're like, what? They're quite... Well, it doesn't matter at this point because they're not in North America. Mm-hmm. They're in Scotland. They can't get the gold at this point in time.
Right.
But will that be a problem later? Will someone go through the stones? This is just me. I haven't read that far. I have no idea. But will someone figure out where the gold is, like that Jemmy's tied to the gold, and go back for Jemmy
mm-hmm.
and try to find out? I don't know. That's just me, thinking about what the gold could mean in the future in terms of trouble for Bree and Roger, even in the future that they're in. Is it possible that somebody would go after them to get the gold? That's someone who can go through the stones. I don't know. Can Archbug go through the stones? I don't know. If he did, would that be someone who meant a lot to Ian that he'd be after? Plus the gold? I don't know. But someone would have to read the letter first. And they'd have to know that they went into the future. So, I don't know, there's a lot that's just me. That's just me wondering if that's going to cause a problem.
Speculating.
Because it's been dropped in there. So where's that going? That's like a little breadcrumb. But then again, in The Mandalorian, that whole Dr. Pershing episode, where did that go?
Yeah.
Nowhere. Unless they're going to bring it forward in season 4. Anyway, that's The Mandalorian. But that sometimes they do have things that happen and you're like, what happened to that? And it doesn't even matter.
Well, it's set up and payoff.
Yeah.
It's well written, so.
Well, that's the thing with the books. They are, and sometimes you're like, dude, I don't remember that. It was 4 books ago. And each book is like 1,800 pages, so remembering all that is kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I can't quite remember sometimes if something happened in this book or the previous book. Because remember when I first watched that whole Stephen Bonnet kidnapping Bree and the whole him getting tied to a post thing? I was like, that doesn't happen in the book, and then it totally did. It just was later.
Yeah.
As his storyline kind of got squashed into a couple of seasons, yet it goes across like 5 or 6 books. So it's like they just wanted to like wrap up the Stephen Bonnet before they got to the other stuff. But yeah, they're picking the major stuff. Jamie's a seasick dude, so I don't think we're really going to see them on the ship. I have a feeling it's just going to be like, surprise, we're in Scotland, just like Bree and Roger are in Scotland.
Right.
But one more thing that's important is that Jamie once again saw in his dream the future.
Yep.
Which is exactly what happens in the book. The whole phone and Fiona thing is in the book. So
yeah, they had that little bit in the beginning which had
where he picked
kid
up
using the avocado telephone.
Yes. So yeah, Jamie said that he described the lady and said that they called her Fiona.
Mm-hmm.
And then he described the phone that had like a piggy tail and it was humped and Jimmy said he wanted to talk to Granddad. And that's what he could, if he could, on his phone, he would have. So Claire was like, yeah, that's a telephone. It means you can talk to people in great distances. Unfortunately, not across time.
Yeah.
Not at this point, anyway. Anyway, yeah, did I miss anything? Because I don't think I did. Alright, well, I better get reading because they're now exactly where I was in the book. Except they never showed them buying Lollybrook, they're just in Lollybrook. Like, they live in it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I knew they were going to buy it, but that whole part was missing in the book. So yeah, that was a little bit different. Anyway, leave us a comment, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Bye!